Okay, how's everybody doing today? Today's Saturday here in Southern California. A big beach day. A lot of people come to the beach on the weekends, and today is a good day for it. So I want to talk a little bit about the reason I'm making these videos. The reason I'm making this video, because I was making videos about cryptocurrencies because I'm a big believer in cryptocurrency, and the reason, because I think cryptocurrency is a good place to put your money if you're looking to find some place to beat the inflation, and in order to keep ahead of the game. I would think cryptocurrency, specifically Bitcoin, and to lesser to a degree maybe Ethereum, but primarily Bitcoin. And I think if you get away from Bitcoin, Ethereum, maybe XRP, and a few others, Solana, you're really in deep water. I mean, I would not recommend some of these other cryptocurrencies, especially the less known ones, or the ones that people don't talk about as much. The ones that, if you haven't heard about in mainstream media, then it's probably one you might want to stay clear of. But anyway, talking about cryptocurrency, and I still talk about cryptocurrencies, but upon thinking about it and upon kind of evaluating myself, and I think the reason people watch YouTube videos is they want to hear a different perspective. They want to hear a perspective from someone that's just an ordinary, everyday, ordinary person, somebody that doesn't have somebody funding the video. I hate it when you're watching a video and right in the middle of the video there's a big advertisement for some sort of I don't know, whatever it is, a VPN, or I even hear people that have advertisements in the middle of their video for therapy, getting some sort of therapy. So if your video is being funded by somebody, it's generally got some sort of they try to make it so whatever they're trying to push is part of the content of the video. Well, I don't do that because I don't have anybody pushing my videos except for myself. And I'm the only person making this video, and I'm the only person that's editing, and I'm the only person that's responsible for the content of this video. And I'm just an everyday, ordinary person, just like probably most of the people that are watching these videos. So I think that's why people watch these videos. So I started noticing why I was thinking about my cryptocurrency experiences and how it's playing out as far as Bitcoin's concerned. Bitcoin did really well earlier this year. They had the ETFs come into effect. Bitcoin went from $30,000 to $60,000. Everything's looking really, really good, and I'm pretty happy. Well, lately I've been kind of concerned, and the reason I'm concerned is because I'm concerned about the fact that everything's getting to be more expensive. I mean, really more expensive. So expensive that it's starting to really worry me about whatever I'm doing in cryptocurrency and how that's going to be able to last long enough for the remainder of my life, which is, I don't know how many more years. Like I say, I'm 64 years old. I don't know how much longer I got to live, but will I outlive the money that I have? And it's getting to the point where, yeah, this is going to happen really quickly, especially at the rate of the prices as things go up. And I'll give you an example. I was filling gas the other day with my car, and as I'm giving the lady the money, she said that she would give me the price at that point because we were just getting ready to raise the price. And I said, how often are you doing that? And she goes, last week we did it 3 times. So in 3 times in 1 week, they raised the price of gasoline at this one filling station. That's how quickly prices are going up. They're going up incredibly. So things are getting more expensive, not for me, but for everybody. And this is getting to be a real problem. And we really kind of have a trifecta going on right now in the world, in our economy, as far as the world is concerned. The first thing going on is we have incredible inflation, more so than anybody knows, because the government hides the figures. And I'm going to explain to you how we get this inflation. The second thing going on is we don't have any jobs. There's no place for people to go get a job and make up the difference. So if the prices of everything go up, there's no place where you're going to go find some side gig and make some money, and all of a sudden you're going to get the 2 ends to meet, and you're going to have enough money to cover up how more expensive everything's getting. And the third thing going on is there's a lack of respect and a lack of looking at employees as something to be valued, something that the employer treasures, something that the employee looks as an asset, not a liability. People that are being employed are being looked at or being looked at as liabilities. We don't want them. We don't want to hire any more people. We don't want to have people on the books because that just creates more liability for us. And of course, the final is technology. Technology is making a lot of people, making it so it's harder and harder to find a job. So all these forces are working against people like myself who are looking at their lives and saying, hey, I got a little bit longer to live. I've got a little bit of money, and is my money going to last for the remainder of my life? Or are you going to be able to keep up the standard of living that I have been used to? Or am I going to have to make some changes? And that's a frightening thing, and I think a lot of people are thinking of that, and a lot of people are worried about that. So that's one of the reasons why I make this video. And when people talk about inflation, how it works, I'll give you an example. Of course, everybody's talking about the presidential debate, and if you have any confidence in our leaders being able to figure this out, all you need to do is watch that debate, and you're going to be really you're going to be confronted very quickly with how inept the whole system is, and how little faith we can have in the people leading this country. I mean, I don't know how much a president does anymore in these days anyway. Obviously, the president does very little. I mean, you got to look at a guy like Joe Biden. You got to say, hey, how much of that is that guy really responsible for? Probably not a lot on a daily basis. He's just got to show up and make an appearance. And at this point in the game, he can't even do that. He can't even show up and make an appearance. So if he can't even show up and make an appearance, he can't do anything else or much else behind the scenes. So if there's decisions that really truly need to be made based on the way our government works, the way our Constitution works, the way our government constructed, then you can't count on much from people like that. And obviously, the other guy isn't much better because he's got an agenda too, and he doesn't really understand government all that well either. So we can't have much faith in our politicians to fix the problems, because it's a big problem, and I don't think either one of them are up to the task. So I'll give you an example of how this inflation works and why it's a problem and why it's going to get a lot worse. So right now, you got a war going on in Ukraine. And I guarantee you, a few years ago, most people couldn't find Ukraine on a map. And now we're pumping billions and billions and billions and billions of dollars into Ukraine, in giving Ukraine government money, and for probably a legitimate reason. Is you got this dictator Putin who is in Ukraine trying to take the country over, trying to take the land, trying to inhabit Ukraine, trying to say it's part of Russia, which is against the will of the people, Ukrainians for the most part, or else they wouldn't be fighting back. So that they're going to countries like the United States and European countries, and they're asking for money. Well, when they go to the United States and ask for money, what the United States does is they have a vote, and they decide to give the money to Ukraine. And the way that works is they borrow the money from the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve creates the money, and then our government borrows the money from the Federal Reserve. And then the way they're saying that it's helping us is the fact that now it creates jobs in the United States, because that money that we borrowed from the Federal Reserve is going to defense contractors. Those defense contractors build the weapons that are being taken to Ukraine so they can fight the Russians, and we can help Europe remain a democracy, remain free, and remain independent of a dictator like Putin. So they're saying it's a good thing, it's a great thing, it's a wonderful thing. We create jobs in the United States, we borrow the money, we help out a fellow ally, and we do a lot of good in making this happen. And this is the argument that's going on right now. But the problem is the billions and billions and billions of dollars that is being created so that we can help the Ukrainians fight this war is being borrowed, and that money has an interest rate attached to it. And the more money we borrow, the more money we create, the more money our government, our country, has to create in order to pay the interest on that debt. And that's what makes everything rise in price. So the more we do those kinds of things, create money for the war in Ukraine, create money for the war in Gaza, the war in Israel, the more that we create that money, the more expensive things become in the United States of America. So a person like me gets affected because I'm an older guy. I'm looking at a fixed amount of money that I have to live on. And as things get more expensive, prices become more expensive, then it gets harder and harder for me to live. And so that's the way it's working. It's working in such a way that we can't continue just to spend money endlessly by borrowing it, paying interest on it, and having that affect the balance sheet or the money that we need to pay back, or we'll never pay it back, or at least maintain it. We need to at least maintain the interest, and that becomes an ever-increasing amount of money that we can't any longer support. And that's the problem, and that's why this is going the way it's going. That's why, I think the illiteracy of the American people, as far as the ability to understand that we're borrowing money, we're giving money to countries, and that money has to be paid back with interest. And like I say, at this point, it'll never be paid back. It's just the interest that we're worried about. And I think when they sell it to the American people is the fact, hey, what we're really doing is we're creating jobs, because the weapons that are being created here for Ukraine are being produced here in the United States of America, and those companies that are creating these weapons that are being used, the ammunition, the tanks, the armor, everything that they use, the artillery, everything that they use in order to defend the country Ukraine is all helping our economy, because we're creating jobs, and all that money's being put back into our economy. And that's wonderful, and that's great. But the point of the matter is you got to be able to pay for it. And we're not being able to pay for it without affecting the rest of everybody's life. And it's affecting my life, even though I'm not involved. I don't work for a defense contractor. I'm not somehow benefiting by Ukraine defending themselves, outside of the fact that Ukraine is becoming more of a democratic country than a country under the control of Russia or under Putin. That's a good thing in my opinion, but it's not helping me in any other way. In fact, it's hurting me in over a course of a long period of time. It's really hurting me, because I'm sitting here looking at whatever I have, and hoping that it lasts the rest of my life, and hoping that it doesn't get to the point where, and it is to that point right now, that if they don't do something drastically and these interest rates stay as high as they are, and that's the other thing too, that's really affecting us, and that's why everybody's complaining about the Federal Reserve keeping the interest rates so high, is because they haven't refinanced that debt. So that debt that we're paying, that interest we're paying the Federal Reserve for the money that we borrowed when they bought the debt that we created when we decided to fund the war in Ukraine, and help Europe out by helping Ukraine out, and by helping Israel out by defending or attacking Gaza, Hamas. All this stuff is it's creating a tremendous burden for the American taxpayer and for the American public, because we have to live in this economy. This stuff is not helping us. This is hurting us. And if we don't do something about it sometime, it's all going to eventually collapse to the point where we're going to have to create some sort of a system where people can survive, and not, because you're not going to pick up a second job, you're going to pick up some sort of second gig someplace, and you're not all of a sudden going to get a bigger Social Security check. And your Social Security check is what it is. So if you reach Social Security age, which is my age group, you're all of a sudden not going to get an extra, you might get 1% or 2% here and there, but you're not going to get the kind of money it's going to take in order to keep ahead of what's going on as far as the government's spending money is concerned. So something has to give, something has to break, something has to go. And that's why there's been so much pressure on the feds to lower these interest rates, to cheapen the interest, the amount that we pay on the interest. And for whatever reason, Janet Yellen decided not to refinance the debt, I guess, when the interest rates were real low. And I don't know why she didn't. Obviously she's smart enough to know that needed to be done, and she didn't do it. So I guess they have it a real short-term interest rate. The money that they owe on so much of the debt is short-term, so they're paying a very high interest rate on some of this money, and they got to cheapen it down a little bit. If they don't, then things are going to break in a big hurry. And of course, in my opinion, of course, what I've been talking about quite a bit recently is that the government's going to have to come in and help out people to in order to pay ordinary everyday bill, just to be able to live, to survive, in order to pay for groceries, in order to pay. And you can't make things cheaper because it takes so much money to be in business. One of the things that happened to me, like when I was about 24, 25 years old, I had grown up on a farm. I was a third generation farmer. My grandfather had farmed, and my grandfather before that had farmed, so they'd all been farmers. And when I was about 25, 26, 27 years old, I was, I had a lot of energy, had a little bit of time, and, of course I had the use of my parents' equipment, so I was able to farm land. So I went out and I farmed as much land as I could farm. And it didn't take very many years for me to realize that the margins were so thin that I was borrowing a lot of money and still losing money and running about as efficient of operations as you could possibly run, and still losing money. So there were years when I farmed and literally killed myself farming, working as hard as I could, as long as I could, as many hours as I could as a young man, and lost money. I'd have been better off if I would have taken the year off and not farmed rather than work my ass off all year long and lose money. And that happened enough years in a row that I decided, no more. I'm done. I'm quit. I'm tired of farming. Now I see where farming is getting to be getting to be so precise that the farm implements are to the point where when they're, like, let's say you're spraying a field and you're spraying a field for a particular weed, by the instrument, by sprayer that's spraying the land, it is so precise, and by machine learning and by being able to have artificial intelligence, the machine is able to identify a plant and put on just enough of the herbicide directly on that plant to kill it and not waste any excess. So instead of broadcasting over the entire width of the machine, it's just precisely pinpointing that one point, that one little point where that plant is at, and it's squirting a little bit of the correct herbicide to kill that specific plant at that specific time. That's how precise farming has gotten. Well, in order to do that, you've got to cover a lot of acres, thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of acres, and you got to be spending hundreds, if not millions and millions of dollars to set up an operation like that. Well, pretty much eliminates the family farmer. No family farmer can sit there and spend millions and millions of dollars and farm hundreds and hundreds of thousands of acres and have the kind of operation that is so precise that when they're spraying a field, that their planter or their sprayer is so precise that it can isolate one little plant in an entire field, maybe 1,000 acres worth of land, and know exactly what that plant is and know exactly how much herbicide it takes in order to kill that plant, and then identify it so it uses the right kind of herbicide. That's the kind of world we're living in. And so a company like John Deere no longer is a company making tractors. They're a company that's in the artificial intelligence business, and they're creating software that it makes it so precise in the farming operation. Only a few people can afford to do that. So that pretty much eliminates the entire Midwest family farming operations that are going to be completely unable to compete against this kind of operation where somebody has that kind of precision and that kind of thing. And not to mention the fact that when you have that precise of equipment, you've got to have highly technical people work on it. You can't just say, hey, I'm going to go out there with my crescent wrench and start working on a sprayer because I've got something that's not working on. No, you've got to have somebody that's a specialty in programming, somebody that can program the system, because maybe you have the wrong, the sprayer isn't working correctly because it's identifying the wrong plant, and you're putting on maybe you're putting on one type of herbicide when you should be putting on another type of herbicide. And instead of just saying, hey, I'm just going to loosen some bolts and tighten some bolts and move it over a little bit here or there. No, you have to set up. Something else has to be set up. Some software has to be changed. Some software has to be. That's the kind of world we're living in. So that's going to be something that's going to create a very select few people to do this kind of work, and you're not going to have all the people. And if you're going to be the family farmer that's just going to go out and do it the old-fashioned way, where hey, I'll just spray it, and whatever I kill, whatever I don't kill. Well, you won't be able to compete because the margins are so razor thin because they have that kind of equipment, can cover so many acres. They can afford to make so little. You know, the price of corn can be so low and still make money because they're doing it so efficiently that you can't keep up with that efficiency. I saw that 20 years ago when I was farming, almost 30 years ago when I was farming. I couldn't keep up with the efficiency of the big farmer back then. And you know, that was way before all this other technology came into play. So anyway, I've been going at it for almost 20 minutes. I'm going to give it up for the day and let you save some more for tomorrow. But anyway, that's the kind of the reasoning behind what I'm doing right now. I'm trying to, you know, sit down and really think about what's going on in the world today and how it's going to affect us, especially someone like me who still has to figure out how to make it for the remainder of their life and what to do. And, you know, understand that things are going to get more and more expensive, and it's going to get harder and harder to figure out a way to make a living. So we're going to have to figure out a way to, you know, decide or figure out what the politicians are going to do in order to make the two ends meet, in order so people can just afford to live. You know, even if it's a living that it's less than what we're used to, but we're still going to have to figure out a way to live. So anyway, I appreciate it. I'll turn the camera around, let everybody say goodbye to everybody, and I'll see you tomorrow. Okay, there we are. I appreciate you watching. Thank you very much.